is about a new feature that we came up with at our hometown, these author profiles, which we're doing it because of the SEO benefit. That's the main reason. And I'll explain why it's going to benefit SEO in a second. But before we get into that, I just want to show you basically an example of what we're now doing. Because in the past, we always had the author here, but it was not clickable. You could look up authors' other work by using the search and looking in the archives, but it wasn't as easily accessible as it is now. So this is what's new. We can have a little avatar here for the author, but the name is now clickable. And then it's going to take you to what we call the author profile page, which is not only a profile, but it's also a list of all their work that's dynamically updated constantly. So they come out with a new edition this week. Their article is going to be at the top of the list. And the profile part here, you can see at the top is fully customizable with the avatar image, any social media links, and then, a paragraph bio here. So this is the feature basically at a high level that we're talking about. Now, I want to explain to you a little bit. Well, first of all, I'll give you just an outline of what we're going to talk about. Basically, there's the author SEO side of this. I just want to give you the context right up front as to why we think this is important and why we think it'll help, with SEO ranking. Then I'm going to get into byline pages a little bit, talking about how those work versus the author pages. As you'll see, the real product here, the product in its fully form, it's like, I guess just like full form, is author pages that are customized. The byline pages is kind of a solution we've come up for people that are using bylines, but ideally everyone will be using authors going forward and creating author pages, because those are the ones that are customizable to have the image and all the social media links there. But as we'll talk about, for anyone using bylines in full service extraction, those will also be linked so that you're going to get all the SEO benefits of linking your authors. It's just you won't have the full author profile page. Okay, and then Chris does a lot of work with AI image creation. So he has come up with some, pretty clear-cut tools and processes for creating an avatar if you wanted to make it sort of like an animation across your site. And then we've also got the byline mapping to authors. So this is the last thing. And some folks on here, like Kim, this won't apply to you because you're going to be coming on as an author. But we have a lot of publishers that start with us with our full service PDF extraction, which means we're using bylines to attribute the articles. So we developed a way to basically transfer all those bylines over to authors and map them. And we'll go over how that works so that anyone on full service that wants to switch can do that. And feel free to jump in at any time. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat or just unmute and just shout them out. This is very casual. Okay. So here's some background on the motivation for a lot of this. As we have learned and continue to learn each year in our webinars with some of our SEO consultants, the EAT acronym, which has now been expanded to EEAT, it used to just be EAT. It stands for, it basically represents the criteria that Google uses to rate the quality of their search results. So the EEAT stands for expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. And the nice thing about that is newspapers are actually like perfectly cut out for this. Like you have all these things already just in your nature as an institution in the community and with all your history and archives. It's not clear to Google. That's not always obvious. It depends on how you present the information on the website. And so little details like this make a big difference in SEO. If Google can't see that a single author is tied to all these topics and they're always the one reporting on it and they've got 10 years experience reporting on it, then all of this value that would normally go towards improving your ranking is going to be lost. So that's why it's so important for us to get these working on all of our customer sites. The good news is this already is working on all of our sites. Okay, so the way we've rolled this out, it works for everyone, but there are slight differences in how it's been rolled out, depending on whether you use bylines or you use authors. And I just noticed Erica jump on. We were looking at your site beforehand, Erica, as a good example. And it looks like you are currently using bylines because, you know, that's basically how you were trained. And at the time when we started working with you, it didn't make any difference. But I want to talk to you about possibly mapping those bylines to actual author users in the WordPress site so that it's not just a text string, it's an actual author account and a user that's affiliated with that story now. And then that'll allow us to build the nice author pages that have all the bells and whistles. So you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. But basically, it all comes down to this EAT stuff, EEAT. We want to try to build and develop more of this. As you'll see, we're going to continue doing more of this throughout the year in other ways, just linking pages together to help Google bots. But here it is, just from Moz, which is kind of like the authority on SEO. EEAT, as I said, what it stands for. It's really just about establishing, you know, who knows what they're talking about, who are the actual experts, you know, because these days anyone can pop up and start publishing things online. But as a newspaper, you've got all this history, you've got, you know, place in the community, you've got everything going for you. We just got to showcase it. That's all that this is about. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about author versus byline. So when you log into your dashboard on WordPress and you go to the articles section, it will look like this. And we've got the author field here. Now, authors are technically users in WordPress. They have separate logins, you know, different passwords, and it's like a different type of entity in WordPress. Compare that with bylines, which is basically just a string of text in the article editor. So, you know, you can write anything in there. And we developed that feature originally to give flexibility to publishers. So, you know, they could write, you know, maybe it was just staff writing this story or, you know, just like a passing through author or something. But the main reason was for the PDF extraction, because a big part of our business is taking the print PDF and turning it into an HTML website. The only way that we could really do that was to just take the author from the PDF and take the string of text that's there and put it in the byline field. We haven't until this point really had a way to map it to the author, because as you can see in this perfect example, this story was written by Catherine, but it was posted by Kara. So, you know, that can create a little bit of confusion for people. So like, if you are using bylines, you're probably only displaying your bylines and you're not displaying the authors, because those might sometimes be different. So we might just want to talk about switching those two up, displaying the author instead, so that we can get all the features that are available. But just to take a quick pause here, I guess, since I think it would be helpful just to look at Insider Utah, since this is the example I was just talking about for Erica. We'll just take a look at any article. All the articles should have this. So this actually just says contributed. Okay, so that was the string of text that was used. So our system looked out at the website, all the examples of other stories using the contributed byline, and put it together for you. So this is going to work on every single website. But as you can see, we don't have an avatar here. We don't have the social media links, and we don't have a bio. So it's not really all the bells and whistles of the author page, although it does provide at least the structure for the Google bots to be able to follow these things. But ideally, Erica, I think we would want to get you over to authors, and we can definitely work with you on that. Now, here's another example, Tory Dark Skies. That is just a string of text. It looks like it's not an actual author. So it's just going to link to a page like this. Just to contrast that, Erica, this is what an author page would look like. We could get the picture of the author there, their social media, and then a short bio. But we can only do that if you're using the authors. With the bylines, it's not possible right now. But as we'll talk about at the end, we have a way to map bylines over to authors. So it's not going to be a big deal to make this change. Okay. Let's see here. So now let's jump over a little bit more about bylines. Let me just see if there's anything here that I haven't already covered, because I think I pretty much explained the reasoning behind it. Yeah, so like I said, even if you're using bylines, those are now clickable, and they're going to go to a page that has all the articles by that person. Okay, let's see. Good question, Erica. So I want to address this right away. Yes. So you do the authors, again, I think we might have just kind of steered you towards bylines initially, but there was never a point where you couldn't control the authors. I think maybe actually at the time, there may not have been a way to change the author on individual stories to someone other than yourself. So then you'd have to be logging into other people's accounts. But that's what's different now is you can, as the editor, you logged in with your account, Erica, you can set the author to anyone on your staff now. That was not possible in 2020 when you joined. So I think that's probably why we steered you to bylines. So that's a big change. So yeah, we can talk a little bit about that. Maybe we can even show everyone, Chris, when we get into a demo in a minute here, if we could show them how to change the author on an article. I think that's kind of new to a lot of people. So probably worth highlighting. All right, very cool. So here's just another example of, this looks like it's a byline again, because we're looking at Florida Weekly. And so Florida's using bylines, but then they've got, this second line here. Now, I believe the way it works is it's only going to highlight the first line of the byline. So you can have, the person's name and then title underneath, and it won't link their title, as you can see here. But
Matt, the other thing I would point out about authors is, to the full service point, is all of the full service articles are assigned a default author on import, which is usually like our hometown admin account.
Exactly. Yeah, let's expand on that. So Florida Weekly is one of our oldest customers. They've always been using full service PDF extraction. So what's going to happen here is basically they send us the PDF. We take that text out and just put the string right in the byline field. I mean, I kind of already explained that. I'm sort of losing my train of thought here for a second.
Actually, what might be, if you want to go visit one of, if we can get to the live, but if you were to click on the edit article, which this is a screenshot, so obviously we can't, but you could see the author listed. And I believe for most of the Florida Weeklies, it's just OHT admin, but we're hiding the author display via CSS since the full service customers were focused, as you say, mainly on using the bylines.
That's what I was going to try to explain, right? Because our reps are logged in as admin. And so, yeah, their user accounts they're just, every article that they publish, even though they didn't write it, obviously, is going to have OHT admin. So that's why we developed the bylines in the first place, so we could just hide that OHT admin author on the majority of our customer sites. But now more and more people are, going self-service, and just the authors are just making more sense for everyone. So, that's kind of why we wanted to make this available. Does that make sense? If that doesn't make sense to anyone, feel free to unmute yourself or just drop a message in the chat. Erica, I just invited you to speak. If you don't have to, but if you'd like to talk at all, just feel free to unmute yourself.
And I will say that Erica's point that at least on the import, you can set a default author that's not OHT admin, but you can only set a single author for the entire import. So you'd have to still go and individually change authors after the full service import in order to take advantage of those things, which is the workaround for the mapping. So that when we have a byline that we're pulling from the PDF and the extraction on our import, it will match those up and take care of that automatically for us.
Right, right. Yeah. But just to be totally clear, Erica is self-service. She's publishing all this stuff herself, so that actually doesn't apply to her. But that is a good point. Like, the fact is, we are going to continue with when we do extraction, we're going to continue putting in bylines. Technically, they're just going to be mapped to an author page. That's an actual user account, because just the way it works when we're doing extraction, we still have to put the author as OHT admin. We can't in the process change the author, even though it's right there in front of us on the PDF, in theory, we could select from a drop down, but it's not possible. It just needs to be published as admin. So that's why we have the mapping to connect the bylines to the author pages after the fact. Is that 100% correct, Chris, or did I say anything?
I would have to check with engineering on if the mapping specifically takes place before or after, like on the actual import.
Right.
If it does the mapping and actually changes the authors, I would have to check on that.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think Erica, yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I had been reluctant to ask a question because I came in a few minutes late because I had to do a Zoom update. But is this something that we can, so you're saying we're going to be going more with authors than bylines? I'm a little unclear
Okay.
how this system works. And is this something that's already set up or something that's going to be set up?
So just to be clear, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to make any of these changes that I'm suggesting. There's two things. We have already implemented the byline links. So if you look at your site, if you haven't noticed, these are now clickable and they weren't always like that.
I
right?
see. Okay.
So that's one thing I just want to point out. That is done. That's rolled out everywhere. I was probably just like totally, yeah, I'm sorry if I just talked without explaining this clearly enough, but if you wanted to have a page like this where we can, because right now this is automatically built, but this is all that we can do with the bylines, is have the name at the top and then a list of articles. But if you wanted to make those author profiles a little bit more detailed, have more information in them, and also link to the author's other work, kind of like a resume page or something, Google really likes that. So we would encourage publishers to move towards authors, and that's something that we can help you with, okay? Just to be clear, that's nothing you got to do on your own. We can help you with that, but the reason to do it would be to get these nicer looking profile pages and also provide that other link between your website and this person's social media accounts, so then Google can see that this is all connected. This is one person, this is like legit. Does that all make sense, or am I still?
Yes, that part makes sense. But right now, yeah, we're happy to like build out those pages and have their photos and their name and their bio and links to their social media if they have them. I'm glad that we're doing this because we really do want to increase our SEO. We're finding that we're not getting great SEO right now.
Okay, right.
We feel like we should be doing better than we are since we are posting so regularly.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, because yes, we input our articles manually every week. And so I'm wondering, where do we go? And we use the byline down at the bottom of the article page.
Right.
And we also select author up on the right-hand side when we're creating an article. But so far, we've only had the insider and my name as default authors. And I'm wondering, it's still unclear to me whether the byline down at the bottom of the page is the key area where this link is happening,
May
or
I?
if it's under authors.
Yeah, sure.
And
jump
we
in.
don't have control over authors. We don't have control over that.
Right.
I've been
Well,
told by your tech people.
right. Yes. And that I think that they would have. Well, Chris, what were you going to say? Sorry, I don't want to step up because you.
Well, no,
sound
no,
like-
I was just going to say that an author is someone with an editor level account on the dashboard.
Right.
So if you don't have an author in the dropdown, they basically just need an account and you can start assigning stories to their account. Now, the permissions level to add editor level accounts, I'm not sure on your particular site, but that would be the way forward to start adding authors that then you could then start doing the attribution for when they post.
Well, I think it would make sense just to troubleshoot this a little bit with Erica, and that's very helpful, Chris. But I need to see this to make it clear. So let me just log in with admin here, and we'll just take a little diversion. This is, oh shoot, I forgot double opt-in. Hold on a second.
I'm just going to add another question. So we want to add, for example, the people that we have doing regular reporting, we want to add them as authors.
That's
Yes.
what I'm gonna. Yes, that's exactly what I want to explain.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing too is we may have an occasional contributor, a member of the community who has written something for us. And then do we have to go to you guys in order to input that person as an author?
That's a good question.
Because that's an onerous process.
So yeah, we wouldn't need to do that. No, this is a really good point. What do you do for them now? So you're entering in all the info. So you just put their name in the byline.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then we use the drop down, and we actually want the insider as the author. Here's another weird thing. I've looked up some of our contributors, some of our columnists, for example, on Substack. You know, if you do a search on something, there are content sites that aggregate. You know, they'll just pull out stuff from across the web, and they'll show stuff from our site, but it's showing under my name as opposed to the commentator name, and it's really unclear to me why that's happening, because we're showing their byline. We have their byline.
Yeah. That's strange. That shouldn't, I don't know why that would be happening, but these are really good questions. Oh, whoops.
Depending on I'm pretty sure the article schema that's used pushes author above byline. So depending on how the aggregators are working, that they may pull that first.
Okay, so let me explain this a little bit more. I think what is happening is, and this is another good reason for you to switch to authors. The author is still in the website. It's still in the CMS, and it's actually still in some kind of front-facing code. We are just hiding it with CSS, so you can't see it through a browser, but a bot scraping sites may still see you as the author. That is problematic. I agree. Like we don't want your Substack, these Substack things showing your name. So there's a couple things that that's another really strong reason to make this switch. Okay. But I want to address all your concerns because I know that it sounds like we really drilled it into your head that you can't change the author, and that it has just changed. We made some updates. So that's the big thing I want to demonstrate is different. But even if you go in there right now, if we never set up a bunch of authors because it's only you putting up stuff, then there won't be anything for you to choose from anyway. So we do have to create the author accounts first, and then we can start assigning articles to them. But it's not like the byline where you can just type whatever you want in there. It's going to be from a drop down that is of all the users.
Okay, are we still using the byline then?
So I think that the recommendation is that you don't, because it's just going to be too confusing to have more than one thing. And, you don't want the same name showing twice. So we would say, no, you're not going to need the byline anymore. The only thing is, though, for those guest writers, I have to think through that a little bit. I don't have an answer.
I have a recommendation for that.
What do you think?
Well, that would be you use a generic email address such as staff@yourpaper.com, and that's the author. And the byline isn't going to be pulled from Substack but they're not as high on the tier list as your actual authors. So they're not going to have the same level of trustworthiness because they're only going to get a button link. So if you are going to have contributors, but they're not high enough to actually be a member of your contributing staff, then they're just not going to have the same level of linkage, I guess. Would be how I would describe that. And so you'd want to default everything to authors unless there's a really good reason not to.
Well, and then would the byline be handy, just so at least people can see who wrote this article?
Right. That's exactly what I was just going to say. What do you think, Chris? Is there any reason that we can't have both? Like, I think.
Well, if they're the same, then I would say no. We would just, right now on this side, the authors are hidden.
Right. Yes.
So if you switch everything over to authors, you would basically start hiding the bylines but you would still have archives with bylines and stuff. So it would be kind of going forward. You just wouldn't use bylines anymore. Archives would kind of fall into their own category.
Yeah. So, and we'll definitely follow up with you on this, Erica. I'm going to talk to the engineers just about this situation that you're describing and make sure I have it right. But I'm pretty sure it sounds like what you want is both. I think we want to display both author and byline. And so then you could have the author on those guests columns. You could have the author be staff, or it could just be guest author. And then you could use the byline to still put their name in there for the reader. But these bots and everything are going to be probably picking up that staff as the author rather than you. So that's at least better than it's showing you as the author. It now shows the insight. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that can work.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't think there's any technical reason we can't display both author and byline. So I think that's going to be what you want to do. That's why we had this webinar. I mean, this is perfect. Like, these questions are exactly why we did this, because everyone is so different. They have different methods.
Right.
And, so it's just all over the place. So, but really, I feel like engineering has done a very good job of rolling this out in a way that works perfectly great. I mean, this is still clickable and it's still useful to the reader, but I think it could just be optimized, and especially given the other issues you've had with those scrapers. Let's talk about moving to authors in a follow-up. Okay, cool. Great questions. So just to get back on track here and make sure I cover all my points, I just want to switch back over to the presentation. I showed you this already. This is just another example of a byline profile. And then byline pages, again, yeah, they're really more for generic names. That's going to be their use going forward, just exactly as we just described for Erica, like in those situations. Okay, so yeah, so here you can see this is actually a good example of one displaying both the author. I don't know if you can even see that. The author here is by staff, but then he's got this other line here by Prescott National Forest. So this would be your guest staff author, and then this would be the person's name in this example we just described, Erica.
Okay, and we'll have control over what that says, because I'm a little uncomfortable with that, because in our case, we have National Forest contributing stuff too. They're not staff, they're a contributor.
Right.
I mean, free contributor.
Sure.
So it's just, I don't want any, I just want to be as clear with the public as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, and no question about it. Yeah, you can name that author anything you want. We can just call it contributor or anything. Yep. I'll just make a note of that. Okay, great. So we've talked quite a bit about bylines and how those all work. Let's get into the author a little bit. I've been alluding to it constantly, but here it is. Again, just in one shot, you can see it's kind of 2 pages that it affects right now. You can click on the author name in the article and then go to the bio page right here. And then you've got, if any, I think we can take their email, we can take a website, if they have just like a website, that's like their resume, social media, anything that they want to associate with their profile. I don't think that I'm not sure what the max length on this text is, but most people would make it about a paragraph long. And then again, you've just got all of the articles by that author pulled in automatically. Yeah, so you got your avatar, social links. The other cool thing when you get that avatar in there is it will actually show up on the article page. And I think I found my doctor is one of the only ones that has put these avatars up. But as soon as you put them on those author pages, they will propagate out to all the articles too. So you got that clickable photo, makes it a little bit more legit. Again, and here's that author profile page. Pretty straightforward. Now let's talk a little bit about customizing the profile. This is going to be, so again, you're going to have to create the authors first. And once you have those authors created, then you can go in and customize how their profile looks. So
Matt, if I may interject, since we were just talking about the staff account, the
right.
username up there is where you would choose that. So you'd have to think ahead because you can't change that afterwards, but you can have that as staff and then have a, ads at or news at yourpaper.com or something. But that's how you would set up that kind of generic account.
Right. Let me just see if we can even show. I'm not going to actually create anything, but just as a quick demonstration on how you could do this, you get into the dashboard. We're going to go to users, because an author is just a specific type of user. So the roll down here is automatically subscriber. You just want to make sure that's set to author or editor, whatever you want. But as you can see, this is when the username is created. So this is when you would need to call it contributor. Am I getting that right, Chris? The required,
Correct.
and then locked in. So this is the page to just create the user. But then once the user is created, then you go in to edit it, and you're going to see all these other options. Okay. And the username will be blanked out. It'll be kind of grayed out because you can't edit it anymore.
This is the same page where you manage passwords and
Yep.
addresses and all your contact stuff. It's just your main account profile page.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. And we are asking folks to upload this info themselves. We can help you set up a couple accounts if you need to, but I think that's probably something would want to do like on a call, because we really don't want to. I mean, this is content, it's like very important that it shows up the way you want it. So we really thought it was important to give you full control of this, so you can set it up, you can change it at any point, if the bio needs to be updated or anything like that. Do we have any other questions at this point? Feel free to jump in at any time. Now, what
Matt, while we're waiting, I think there's one demo we didn't include in the slides but was asked about. Would you mind maybe going to an article editing page? So everybody else, because I know Erica mentioned it, but we can also show again where the authors are selected, and also how you can, in the main article list that you're getting ready to go to, you can actually select multiple stories and reassign authors in bulk as well. So just as you're kind of rolling this out, this is just one of the tools that's there to kind of help you manage things without as much tedium if you are moving things from bylines to authors with new accounts and things like that.
Right. Let's see here. So if I go into edit this, yeah, I could have shown you the quick edit, but it's just over here under. I see with the zoom thing in the way. Sorry. Here we go.
It'll be, it may be in different places for different users, but yeah, there we go. So we have one.
Right. Yeah. So like exactly like we thought, Erica, you're basically the only user in here. I mean, there's this ops, but yeah, there's not really anyone for you to assign it to. And so that's why there's no option for that.
Okay, so we're going to create new users who will be available in this dropdown.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. and then you can start assigning them as you're uploading the stories. But just so that we're all totally clear on this, Chris, I wanted to make sure for going back in the archives, that's what the mapping is for. She's not going to have to update these old authors. Is that right?
Let's see. Well, it depends on what the bylines are and where you want them mapped. Because basically, what happens is a particular author can go to their profile page, and there's a field where you can say, anytime this byline string is used, I want that story to be mapped to me, to my author page.
Right. Right. Yeah. So let's look at that for a second. Over at under users, there's not going to be many. But
yeah, I would just go into, I think, the editor, Erica's editor account.
All right. Yeah. Let me just go through
there.
Editor accounts.
Oh, sorry, just the link there with the one next to it will filter the entire list. Yeah.
Okay. So if I go into edit your author or user account, then it's going to be all the way at the bottom of it. Okay. Author email.
It may not be enabled by default.
Okay, sorry about that.
But there would be basically another field right there that would allow you to put a series of bylines separated by commas. And anytime those would appear, instead of linking to that generic landing page, all of those would go directly to your author page.
Okay, so then we talk to you guys directly and have a call about enabling that?
Yeah, we'll make sure that's enabled after the call, or for some reason, I'm not sure why it isn't already. So we'll look into that. But yeah, then like you said, it's just creating the authors, getting their social media stuff uploaded, and then starting to link to them, assign them as authors on the new stories that you upload. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't actually double check this beforehand, but yeah, it should be somewhere in here normally. So we'll follow up on that. Okay. Anything else on, so, I mean, here's the byline mapping again. Now, well, this is what it should.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, right here. So byline map. So there will be a whole section once it's enabled that will on each author profile, it will say byline map. And so then this is where you're going to type all the different ways that their name might appear. And it's, hopefully not too many, but this allows you to have multiple spellings or, multiple titles, all kind of get one person.
An important one is if sometimes the byline is prefaced with by and sometimes it's not, and you want to make sure that both of those get caught and mapped properly. That's a good case for multiple entries.
Right. Yep. And then again, so this is all just for really archives that we're talking about. Like going forward, you will not need to be doing any kind of mapping. It's just updating the archives easier. Because going forward, if you do switch to authors, you're going to be tagging every single story as that author. All right. Any other questions on byline mapping? And Kim, I'm sorry, this hasn't been like super useful for you because a lot of this is geared towards, our existing customers, but, author profiles, it will be a great thing to have set up as soon as we launch your site, so that's something to definitely have ready. That way Google's just indexing it that way from the beginning. Okay, so we got a few minutes left here. I try to keep these under an hour. If maybe we could just talk a little bit, Chris, about creating avatars. I think a lot of people might just use their LinkedIn picture, but if you wanted to kind of have a little bit more fun with it, you've been experimenting with Copilot on Microsoft. Is that right?
Yeah. This version was from Microsoft's Copilot, which is completely, I think if you have a Microsoft account, you get a few more prompts or something, but most of the time, all these things are free for just some silly generation like this. And and it could be useful for like some of those generic avatars where you want to have like just a group of journalists standing in a thing. It's a little more, you've already got your paper logo at the top in the masthead. So when you go to a kind of your contributor thing, you can have like a representations. You can create some different engagement levels with some of this AI driven stuff. But I just thought it was a fun way of getting something done for those of us who don't take too many selfies.
Right. Yeah. If you don't have any good selfies on your camera roll, you can always do something like this.
I think I skipped that when I was young. It just, no, we had flip phones still. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. I still remember taking selfies on like a digital camera. It's so awkward. All right. Cool. Yeah. So that was just like a fun little use of some AI tools. Just to make sure we cover all of our bases, the author profile. I said this in the beginning, but I just want to really emphasize it. It is like the newspaper is the perfect institution for Google. They are trustworthy. They've got the experience. They've got expertise. They're the authoritative sources of information, and they're trustworthy. So they check all these boxes. It's just a matter of displaying that, putting it in the schema of the website so that the bots can follow those links. It's really just all about internal linking, because as the audience knows this, and they might even know some of these authors personally, so they can see that byline, and that's all that they need. But honestly, it just comes down to the bots and outlining this for them. And if we can show them a map of hundreds of articles all linked to this one profile, they really like that, and that'll get us some good scores on the quality ratings that Google does, and they're constantly evaluating the quality of their search results using people all over the world. And this is the criteria they tell them to judge the quality of the results on. So it's very important that we demonstrate these things. Okay, I think we're just about done here. Maybe we could even, here's some of our references, and I can send out a link to this slideshow if you want to read about these things anymore. And we'll also have a link to the video, and we'll probably cut it up and make some shorts from this, I think, because there's a lot of really good points in the middle that I want to highlight, specific cases that will come up for other people too, just like for you, Erica. So maybe even now, since we have some time, maybe we can just ask engineering if they can turn that on, so we can just kind of.
Matt, I wasn't sure if you wanted to take the time, but I can talk you through it. It's under OHT settings on the site.
Great. Okay.
I've turned it on a few times.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
So if you scroll down to the bottom, it's our one with the house next to it. Yeah, and go to OHT settings at the top of that list.
Yeah.
And then it's a little hidden, but if you scroll down, there's a whole set of author things. It's almost all the way down at the bottom. Oh, there it is, modified authors. So you want to do them. Yep, there's the author mapping.
Okay.
And you save the changes, and now you can go back to the profile, and that field will be there.
Perfect. Okay, let's do that. So if I go to users, and we're the editor. Okay, so now, Erica, when you go in here, you should see exactly what I'm seeing as I scroll down. Byline map. Here it is. So basically, you've got all these bylines out there. Some of them are your bylines though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then those are the ones that we want to link to this author. We don't want to link everything that you've ever posted, because that would defeat the purpose. So do you usually just write your full name, or is it by Erica? Or
it's in our previous bylines, I think we put by and then the name, because that's how we want it to show up on the screen. So I think we've always put by.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So then we'll just make sure to include that. I don't want to make these changes right now. I'm going to have my team do it after, but what they will do is just type, your name in there with, and maybe just do one without the by just in case there's any out. And then, once they hit update user, it'll just go out into the archives and connect your author with those. Yep.
This is great.
Yeah. So right. How many authors are we talking about that you would want to set up, you think? We
have maybe 5 or 6 initially. But then we also, like I say, we do have those occasional contributors, people who are columnists who submit things occasionally. Right. It's going to be a little variable. Right. No, I'm really glad we could talk through this, because I think the 100% the solution is to keep the bylines on there. And then, when it's your story, you just won't put a byline in. You'll just use the author and it'll just show up that way. But for these guest authors, you'll still have the byline field available if you wanted to. Okay.
I have something maybe we could bring up with engineering, and that would be where you could have a contributor, give them temporary editor access and assign it, and then put them back as a subscriber. And I wonder if their author page would still be active and assigned properly, or if you demote them if you have to reassign the author. I'd actually have to test that out. I'm not sure what happens if someone is no longer an author. What happens to those stories? I think you have to choose a fallback. So that's interesting.
Yes, that can be an issue. I'm just thinking about Erica's comment of she doesn't want to be creating new authors every time there's a guest contributor. And that's what she would have to do in that case, right?
Yes. Yeah. This would be if it was someone who maybe writes a quarterly sports column, and it is regular enough that they justify an account, but so it's kind of a judgment call on that.
Okay. But that's a good way to deal with if you want to just give them temporary access. You want them to have access to your site. That's the one thing, that may be the big deciding factor.
To have other people have access to our site?
To have contributors have access to your site. No. It doesn't sound like you want that. So
never. No.
You're going to just be doing it yourself. Yeah. But if one of our customers did want to do that, I can see what you're saying now, Chris. You could give them the permissions to go in, set up their own account, publish their article, and then you turn them back to a subscriber, and we'd have to test.
I think I might have to test that. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure. Yeah. If you pull someone that is an author and you take them away as an author, you have to give that story somewhere to go.
Right.
So that might be an important point.
I'm also wondering if we can have a bifurcation. So, for example, we get a lot of content. We're surrounded by public land. We get content from the Forest Service, Park Service, Bureau of Land Management. Should I create authors with little logo avatars for each of those? And then
those press releases?
If we have a specific, we also have specific entities. So we could say that the author is the National Park Service, but with a byline from Capitol Reef National Park. I mean, can we have that kind of granularity?
Well, the issue is you're not the author of that. The National Park Service is. So claiming authorship wouldn't do anything for the SEO. So that's almost like having an AP story.
Right.
And so that doesn't count to the authorship. That shouldn't count to the authorship stuff at all. It would just be more of if you want to have it all the stuff that is contributed by that particular entity aggregated into one place. That's where the byline would come and solve that for you.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I think the answer is yes, Erica. If you want to do that, you totally can. There's no limit on the number of authors. It's really just about how much time you want to put into setting it up, I think, because once it's set up, then you've got them all in your drop down. It's easy, So I think, a couple of the national parks might make sense to be authors. Chris's point about it not helping SEO is a good one, but I do think it serves a functional purpose for the readers to just organize all those stories on a page. That's nice.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the external linking coming in. So it does contribute to the authoritativeness. Absolutely.
Exactly. Right. But there is an original version of that article somewhere else that Google is probably trying to figure out as the original source. I don't know. there's a lot going on there, but I think, yeah, the short answer to your question is you can do it. We would just, need those icons, different
And Matt,
icons from the state parks and stuff. That'd be
I
fun.
would just point out that the only requirement to have an account is it just needs to be associated with an email address. So if you're having your own domain and you can have as many email addresses as you want, that would allow you to kind of, as you say, bifurcate things out a bit more than you might else otherwise. And I mean, you could have an author where the Park Service has a dummy email. I mean, you don't want to fudge it too much, but technically you could create an author page with an email for the Park Service that is just a placeholder for them on your site.
Do we have to enter an email address?
To create an account, you do, yes.
We do, yes.
That's a little tricky because I don't necessarily want individuals' personal email addresses. I mean, should I always put our email address? Because, I mean, the central
Sorry. Right above where Matt is looking, you can have an alternate display email address for a profile if you wanted to put a different email address. Like instead of having if you're using a personal Gmail for your editor account, but you only want to display staff@yourpaper.com on your author profile page, you could do that.
But the thing is, she's going to have to create a bunch of emails.
I do not want our authors' email addresses on our website.
No, you wouldn't need to put those on. But Chris, she can't reuse this snapshot email on all the users.
Right.
Okay, so you do need a unique email for each author. So that to me could be a little bit of a hassle with all these national parks, right? What email are you going to use? Like Chris said,
only if you really want to kind of create the different landing page. You could do the same thing with a redirect as well, like a 301 or something. You could do the same thing.
So now we're really getting into the detail. This is great. Like you could, so here's another option, Erica. Rather than setting up authors for all these national parks, you could still have these pages that aggregate all the press releases from, Canyonlands or whatever, and then just use bylines for those. Is there anything wrong with that, Chris? If she didn't want to have to add an email every time.
That's the fallback. Yeah, those bylines will always be there just as a string-based link. Yep.
Right, that's a fallback.
Okay, I do not want to be showing publicly anyone's email address.
Okay, no, absolutely. And just so you know,
other than our
right. Yep. No, I totally get that. And you wouldn't have to show their name to anyone, but all that we're saying is you need the email to create the author.
Right. Actually, that's a good point. If you don't put an email in that display field that I just showed above the byline that you just showed.
Yeah.
No. Go scroll down, please.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going.
You're talking about.
Okay. So it says author email. If you do not put an email in there, no email will be displayed on the author page. You have to specifically give it an email to be displayed. So if you create an account with, your high school email and you don't want anybody to know it, no one's going to know it. It'll be your username to people who can see your account as admins on the site, but it's not automatically going to put their email on the author page. Only this field will appear if it's filled out, and that can be any email that they want.
Okay.
I hope that assuages your fears that you're not just because everybody's got to have an email that it's automatically going to be exposed by the author profiles. That's not the case.
Right. I hope, this is a complicated thing just because of all the different ways you can go. Did we clarify some things for you, Erica? Do you have any other questions or?
No, I'm going to review this video when it comes back, work my way through it. And then when I have questions, which I undoubtedly will, I'll get back with you guys.
Yeah, that sounds like the way to do it, honestly. And like I said, I would say just, schedule a meeting on our Calendly link. So you have that. I can send it to you too. And then we'll, get Vera on the call and walk through all that. But yeah, I think if you do have any questions, you can always also email ops as you try to set this up yourself. But if you really feel like we need some one-on-one time, happy to schedule a call. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for the great points and questions. I mean, as Matt said, this is helping us refine and optimize a brand new feature, and having you guys here for input is invaluable.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people will see this video too, so they'll all benefit from these great questions. Yeah, we've got a bunch of material here to work with, I think, to flush this out. And yeah, we kind of wanted to use this as a way to help with the rollout. You know, a lot of times when we do webinars, it's just like, hey, there's a feature you can add. But this one is a little bit more complicated, more moving parts. So yeah, can't thank you both enough for joining us today. And I think we'll probably call it a webinar for now. If you guys have any other questions, though, we'll be sending you an email right after. You can reply to that or just send an email to ops. And yeah, Kim, I definitely look forward to getting you set up with all this stuff in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Great seeing you. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care, man.
We hope you have enjoyed this webinar. To keep up with the latest from our hometown, follow us on your favorite social platforms and visit us at ourhometown.com. We'll see you next time.